There are many symbiotic relationships in nature, but there is no closer interspecies bond than the one found between humanity and their dogs. Canines and humans have been close companions for so long that we've influenced the course of dog adaptation and development. While we've changed dogs, dogs have also changed us. The title man's best friend is more than appropriate in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at LD Taxonomy, or visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. And a very special thank you to our patrons, to Tristan Taylor, Jesse Raspulich, Carol Raspulich, and Richard Kaspar. Almost went out of order there. Thank you so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about a canis, comrade, but more on that later.
Yeah, I didn't sign up to be a witch. Now that I see this nomenclature, I'm like, not into witchcraft. I don't want a familiar. Get
well,
it?
we're familiar with them.
We sure are. We are talking about just, they're pretty rare. You know, it takes photographers months of sitting in the same spot to see one. It's a dog.
Yeah, we're talking about dogs.
We're talking about dogs. And give me a moment. If you are watching this on YouTube, I have brought my dog.
Which one?
Morph. Oh my gosh.
The most nimble and yet small enough to pick up.
Yeah, this would not work. Would not have worked well with Yoshi. Weighs 50 pounds.
But he would have enjoyed it.
Morph is kind of enjoying this. He was also like just sound asleep 15 seconds ago. So he's probably pretty upset with me. He was pretty upset to be locked in this room with me, to be honest. He doesn't come in here very often, but it's like, I want to hold the dog while I talk about the dogs. I want to give you scritches while I talk about the scritches.
This episode was suggested by Calvin. Thanks for giving a suggestion, Calvin. Also, I think he gave this suggestion because he has a new dog named Maverick. So say hello to Maverick for us, Calvin.
And I think we've talked about it. Maverick is a great name for a dog.
It is a very good name for a dog, especially if you're a little boy who really likes planes.
Or just someone who does their own thing, you know?
Yeah, or if you are a little boy who really likes Senator John McCain.
Forgot his nickname was Maverick.
Maverick.
Is that one of those things? I don't know. Yeah, it definitely sounds like a nickname that you come up with for yourself and try to get other people to call you that.
He was a war hero, so I'll allow it.
Does that allow you to just be like, call me Stone?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
So
we have names for this?
We are talking about the dog. We're talking about man's best friend, dog, the bounty hunter, the brown noser. Literally, it's a dog.
The family familiaris. The furry friend.
The fairly furry friend. I'm so sorry, Morph. I feel bad because he was so comfortable, and I've uprooted his whole world down there so he could be in the shot. But you know, he's a dog, and I'm a human, and I call the shots. I call shots around here. Let's taxonomize a dog. This is quite possibly the most famous animal we've ever done. Quite probably because it's the most famous animal in existence. But
Probably.
it's the kingdom is the one you know, love, and are in Animalia. You share a kingdom with dogs. The phylum is Chordata. Class is Mammalia, of course. Order is Carnivora. By the way, I wrote this whole taxonomy without having to look it up. I would have had to look up the genus and species, or at least the species, had you not already had it as part of the list. But I knew the kingdom, phylum, class, order, and family. The family is Canidae. The genus is Canis, and the species is Familiaris. So Canis Familiaris. It's when you summon the spectral ghost of a dog using the witchcraft that you do know, and it helps you brew potions and scare Harry Potter.
You had a Familiaris for a while, but then you upgraded to a minivan.
No, I still have a Familiaris.
You still have the Yaris?
I still have the Yaris.
Oh, wow.
We traded in the Sonata for the minivan, but I still have my little dented up white Tic Tac box that doesn't have any hubcaps. But I will probably trade that in for a truck here soon, because I'm in Jacksonville. You can't be respected in this realm without a truck. You're not even allowed to vote unless you have one. And so it's been rough, I gotta say.
Yeah, the founding fathers said we should own property to vote, and the property they actually meant was a truck, a pickup truck.
Well, we just have different founding
thought
fathers
they meant
here.
land.
This is Jacksonville, and that's what Andrew Jackson said. He said you must have a truck and land in order to vote. And
then he shot someone in a duel right after that.
And they put him on the 20
for not having a truck.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much all we know about Andrew Jackson. So, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups. The part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal, or what is the term of venery, or what is the collective noun? It's 3 ways to say this, to ask the same question. If you saw a group of dogs, not would you, but could you say it's A, a bark of dogs, B, a cage of dogs, C, a kennel of dogs, or D, a woof of dogs?
It's a pack of dogs.
That's why I said could, not would, because you would say a pack.
A kennel would be good, but I'm going to go with a woof of dogs. Final answer.
I did not anticipate you picking that one. The answer is C, kennel. Kennel of dogs.
But, that's something else. You can have a kennel of dogs.
You can literally have a kennel of dogs.
But then, you just see
that
a group
kennel
of
of
dogs
dogs
in a field, and there's a kennel of dogs.
Yeah, that kennel of
That's
dogs.
irresponsible with the language.
Kennel of dogs would be full of a kennel of dogs.
That's not good. This is how you harm people with the term of venery.
Hey, listen, if you set up a tiny church, you're going to have a congregation. You can have a congregation of praying mantises made up of a congregation of praying mantises.
They cannot, in good conscience, take communion. They're not communing members of the congregation.
You don't need to be able to take communion to be a congregation. Maybe they're the congregation of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Who knows what's going on in their tiny brains?
We cannot baptize a praying mantis. It'll drown.
Just a quick dip.
Or it's like little parasites will come out.
Quick dip in the dew.
All right.
It's a kennel of dogs. There are many. There obviously it's a pack of dogs, but there are several, and kennel is one of them. Would you like to know what a dog looks like?
This is hard to do, so yeah.
Sure, yeah. So dogs are the
It
most
looks like a lot.
variable mammal on Earth, with around 450 globally recognized breeds. They are also the most abundant species of carnivore on Earth.
Huh.
Which makes sense because most carnivores are greatly outnumbered by their prey. Because
True.
that's how a good balance works in nature. But we have said, nature, hit the bricks. We got this. We're gonna take these carnivores and we're gonna put them in our house.
And we're going to feed him kibble.
Yeah. So they don't have to hunt, and so there can be lots of them, and we can sustain those populations no problem. We started.
But that being said, we also said, but in addition to that, we're going to make sure that chickens outnumber the stars in the United States. So we'll have enough.
Chickens
We'll have enough for our
outnumber
extra carnivores.
the stars. Is that a Neil deGrasse Tyson quote?
It's a reference. Chickens do outnumber human beings.
There are more chickens in the United States than there are stars in the universe.
Yes.
The answer is gajillions. So we started specifically breeding dogs, humans, not me. Don't rescue your dogs. Don't breed them. Don't buy from breeders. We started breeding dogs in the 19th century, the royal we.
Really?
Most likely, literally, the royal we, because it was.
You mean? Oh, I see what you're saying. Literally the royal we, because like Western culture did it. Because there are breeds of dogs that are thousands of years old.
Right. So most of the breeds that we have today come from a much smaller variety of breeds. So it's not like there were no breeds of dogs up until 200 years ago, and then now we have all. There were breeds of dogs, but there were not very many, and now we have 450. So most of the breeds that we have today come from this.
The canis explosion.
Yeah, which was just the messiest part of the 19th century, and that's including the Civil War.
Oh man, I have a fact about a canis explosion later.
Oh, I've having two puppies. There's quite a bit of canis explosions that happen. Well, happened.
Oh man, we're talking about different things.
Are we?
Keep going.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
I'm talking about violent bowel movements.
Uh-huh.
And you're probably talking about that one scene in Galaxy Quest.
Maybe.
And yeah, so when I say quite literally the royal we, it's because previously owning a dog was just as a pet was more of a rich person thing. The idea of taking care of and feeding something that didn't actively contribute to the household isn't something your average bubonic peasant was going to be interested in. They gotta work. You gotta have a working dog. None of these frou-frou, whatever, poodle things that don't do anything but sit there and eat and poop and get pet. So anyway, we have 450 varieties, even though they're all the same species. So these are not subspecies. These are breeds of the same species. Their skull, body size, limb proportions, fur, the style and texture and thickness of their fur, the color of their fur, and their temperament have all been bred out into these breeds, these various breeds. Other than that, well, did you know that all dogs have an identical skeletal structure outside of their bones and their tails? Like the actual makeup of their skeleton, obviously it's different. It's bigger or elongated or whatever, but the structure is all the same, the number of bones that they have. And
makes sense to me.
Yeah. Other than that, they don't really have very much in common. They have the only thing that really connects them visually is that they have 4 legs, a tail of some sort. They're covered in fur. They have
The carnivore snout and jaw.
yeah, they have the
Unless you're a bulldog.
not
and then
really.
it's
Yeah,
smashed in.
it's they don't they don't. Not all of them have that. They all have
They're supposed to.
carnivorous teeth. They have eyes and ears, so there's that. But there are so many varieties, and they vary so widely that I can't just tell you what a dog looks like. You know it when you see it. It's like,
And you might be seeing it right now.
yeah, and I'm seeing him right now. He's all curled up in a corgi blanket that I got for Bibby, but apparently she wanted to give it to Morph. But if you live in like suburbia or a city, it's crazy that you're probably not more than 100 feet from a dog at any given time.
True.
Unless you're driving. So, since it's so hard to pin down what a dog looks like in general, I'm very interested to see what you're going to come up with for their size and dimensions.
Good question. So, welcome to the Love Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio yourself saying, singing, or barking the words measure up into ldtaxonomy.com.
Please.
It's also the part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. We do have a new measure up intro this week.
Nice.
And it all worked out.
I know this one.
Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
Measure up.
So that comes from Calvin, who suggested this animal, from his mom Joy and his sisters Laura and Julia, and guess who's also in the video? Maverick's in the video.
That was an example of that family trying not to be musical, trying not to be talented for a split second.
Yeah, she says we tried to do this one as unmusically as possible. They always send in very musical ones.
We were tired of just absolutely slam dunking the measure up every single time, and here's just a candid one, no makeup, you know.
And it was and we'll take either one.
Yeah,
They're both great.
it's real, it's raw.
Thanks.
Love it.
Thanks to everyone, and we're so happy that on this dog episode we had a dog in our measure up intro.
There's a dog
Isn't
in
that
the
great?
room with me. There's a dog in the measure up. We're talking about dogs. We're dog lovers here.
If only we could do this with all the animals.
Yeah, if only I could have a rhinoceros in here, curled up in the bed next to me, just snuggled up in the corgi blanket.
So yeah, since there's a million dogs, I went. I looked up what dog, because all of these dogs came from one like form when they first because their grandpa Canis lupus.
This is my favorite
Like
Hogwarts
when they
professor.
branched off, when they made adaptations that made them our friends, they changed. And what species do we have today that's as close to that as possible? And there are several
Balto.
candidates. But yeah, huskies are pretty close to the original design for Canis familiaris. And there's Greenland sled dogs that might be the oldest breed in the world, but there's the Afghan hound, which is they definitely have a different. There's the two oldest breeds are like there's two types of hounds that come from the Fertile Crescent, and then there's the sled dogs that come from high altitude northern regions, and they are the best candidates we have for like the oldest dogs. But I went with a husky. We can all picture a husky. We generally know what they look like in their sizes and dimensions. So let's talk about husky weight. Let's talk about husky boy genes. They're 35 to 60 pounds. Do you know a husky can be 60 pounds?
That
It's a big dog.
seems low. I would assume that they would be up to like the 80s and 90s, like a German Shepherd.
I don't know. German Shepherd being 90 pounds would be a very big dog.
A muscular one.
But so yeah, about 60 pounds. We're going with 60 pounds. So how many huskies go into the weight of an M2 machine gun?
Because my dog Yoshi, he's 50 pounds, and he's a little stubby boy.
But they're athletic. They're lean, and they got a team with them. They put the team together.
Yeah, they're also pretty fluffy, so they look bigger.
And I'm sure there might be huskies out there that are like much heavier. But we're going with the upper end of average.
Yeah, and Tubby Stubby Yoshi is not going to be pulling any sleds anytime soon. 60
little
pounds.
bowling ball.
How many of those?
A little sausage.
Go.
So here's a hint. In World War, how many of those go into the M2 machine gun? So in World War II, Americans used dogs to carry machine guns on their back. It was a heavy burden, but if those dogs worked for the Soviets, they would have been trained to carry bombs to tanks and then explode.
That
And
is
there's your exploding dog.
sad.
Isn't that the worst? You
That
go to
is-
school in Soviet Russia to learn how to blow up.
A dog. What is this? Sparta? Is this Sparta?
And if you know anything about working dogs, they often train them by like making them like play. So like bomb sniffing dogs are
Yeah, they
trained
gotta make it a game.
by like whatever a bomb smells like. They coat a toy and hide it. So every time a bomb sniffing dog or a drug sniffing dog is working, they think they're playing. So I can only imagine how they train these exploding dogs, and I'm glad the Soviet Union collapsed because of that.
Yeah, for that single sole reason, the dog blowing up situation. I'm happy that entire regime is in the rearview mirror. No other reason. Had they been nice to dogs, I would have been totally fine with it. Love it. The dog. M2 machine gun. That's I don't recognize it. Is that the better question is this something like goes on a tank?
I don't think so.
Is this
I
something
think
to
you
take
would
down
recognize it.
planes? Is this
It's like a machine, like you know about machine gun nests in World War II?
Yeah.
That's the kind of machine gun it would be.
Oh, okay. A heavy machine gun. Because I guess like any automatic gun is technically a machine gun. Actually, yes, it is. Any automatic gun is for sure a machine gun. Those things are really, really heavy. And only Master Chief can rip them off of their hinges and walk around with them. So I'm going to go with
Master Chief or Huskies, apparently.
Huskies can rip them off of their mounts.
No, but they can carry them.
One. Man, 250 pounds sounds just so heavy. It can't be that much. going to say 150 pounds. And 60, so 2.5. 2.5 Huskies weights go into the weight of one of these guns.
Final answer?
Yeah.
The correct answer is 1.5.
Oh, yeah.
The machine gun was around 84, 90 pounds. And I'm guessing the Huskies are carrying like the receiver. I don't think they're fully laden with the completeness of the machine gun.
Pretty sure you can't.
Because you wouldn't be able to run around.
Pretty sure you can't put a 90-pound gun on the back of a 60-pound dog and expect it to not be damaged.
Yeah, just sit down and lay down and not move.
Yeah, this is not.
I would expect maybe that's how heavy it is with ammo in it or with all put together, and the dogs are only carrying parts.
Against all odds, this is not the episode for dog lovers.
That question was the worst part. Now we're getting into fun stuff.
Weren't there like
I spoke too soon. Wait a minute.
Weren't there like Greek war dogs where they like attached like blades to their backs so they could like disembowel horses as they ran underneath them?
That sounds horrifying.
Or maybe it was
But at least they didn't blow up. Let's talk about the length of a husky. They're between 30 and 34.5 inches or 76 to 88 centimeters. So how many huskies go into the length of the Iditarod race?
Oh boy, I think we've
talked about this.
Yeah, we have
in a measure up,
and I have,
but it's more apropos.
I've just absolutely never not retained that information even a little bit.
So here's a hint: the Iditarod is a famous dog sledding race through the Alaskan wilderness. There are two routes, the northern and the southern, that they every odd year they switch them. I think. In recent years, it has come under controversy because some mushers push their dogs to the point of exhaustion and death. I forgot I had that in this part. That's the last sad thing about dogs we're going to talk about. But on the other hand, sled dogs have an inboard need to pull. I suggested this the last time we talked about the Iditarod. I suggest that they just make a rule that in order to win, you have to have a healthy sled dog team when you cross the finish line.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go about it. You just have a vet come and take their check them up. It's like they're exhausted, but they're healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Iditarod is the same route that Balto took, right? That was where the Iditarod came from. Was the route from something Palmer to not Palmer, Nome, some place to Nome, Alaska.
Yeah.
To bring medicine for some sort of fever.
So how many huskies is
I want to
that?
say 850 miles. Miles. Okay, so let's figure. 4.4 million feet. $53.8 million inches. And what'd you say? 34 inches? 34.5?
Mm-hmm.
My answer is 1.5 million husky lengths is the length of the Iditarod race.
Final answer.
Yep.
The correct answer is 1.8.
Whoa, hold on. Hang on. It is a nursing school victory. I got an 83%. Thank you.
Nice. The Iditarod is around 1,000 miles. You know who would walk 1,000 miles? Sled dogs.
They'll definitely
just
fall out
to
your door.
pull. Yeah. So like, there's two routes. They're both around 900 something or other and change. Close to 1,000. So, do you have any fast facts? There can't be very much to say about dogs.
Yeah, we actually have. There's so many animals we do on this show where they're like live at the bottom of the Lovecraftian abyss, and we know next to nothing about them, except the one cool thing that they do. So there's just not a lot of information about them. But we do not have that same problem here. So let's talk about where they live. It's everywhere. They live everywhere. In your house, probably. Dogs have been with humans for thousands of years. Again, you're most likely not more than a couple 100 feet away from a dog at any given time if you live in a city or suburb. Their diet consists of whipped cream, poop, and shoes. They are omnivorous. At least my dogs, that's all they eat.
Other stuff.
It is, it's, no, that's what the vet told me. All in one big kind of bucket, and they eat the bucket too. It's whipped cream. The dog food is made up of starch, grain, and meat, which they need meat. If you're not feeding your dog meat, that's a bad thing. They can't produce vitamin D on their own. They need to get it through animal flesh in some way, shape, or form. You cannot have a healthy dog that is a vegetarian. If you are a vegetarian and you're forcing your dog to be a vegetarian, stop it. Under behavior, all I have is written here is who's a good boy. That's about it. It's all one word. Who's a good boy? My dog's ears just perked up. So yes, dogs have been domesticated by humans since before we had agriculture. The instance of the most widespread form of interspecies bonding. It's between humans and dogs. And while owning a dog is just a pet, just something to be there and to be loved and nothing else, was previously only for the wealthier in society. They're not completely useless like a snake or a fish. They act as guards, alarms, sheep herders, sled pullers, hunting companions, drug sniffers, blind guides, basketball players, detectives, rappers, bounty hunters, etc.
Okay, that's a good list.
77.5 million Americans own dogs.
Wow.
40%. That's 40% of American households. 67% of dog owners own just one dog.
Oh wow! I would have thought that would be lower.
That's a lot of lonely pups. 25% own two. And it says 9% own more than two. Which checks out, except for the fact that those three numbers equal 101%. So someone's not doing their percentages correctly on Wikipedia. Dogs are also, and we're just gonna nosedive straight back into that sad territory because dogs are also eaten as food in some East Asian countries such as China, Korea, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Even though places such as China have tried to outlaw it. I spent a month in China, and I did not see anything like that. But I also didn't hang out in the seedier places.
The seedy dog eating places?
Yeah, well, there was a restaurant nearby that was called the Seedy Dog, and I just didn't go there.
Dog world.
That's China. It's a Manny dog world. But and I've been to a lot of third world countries, and dogs tend to be less pets and more of a urban nuisance. They, in Peru and Colombia and Haiti and Dominican Republic, they form packs. They're often in the feral, and they form kennels.
Oof.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. So there's a dog population problem in a lot of these places. So I'm just all about the PSAs today. Spay and neuter your pets. See, I kind of want the person who adopted these dogs from Yoshi and Morph. She likes to share things on social media about dogs and animals in general. And so kind of hoping that we can send her this episode and she'll be like, yeah, I'll share it with my friends, all my dog loving friends, and they'll love this episode. And then they'll realize we talk a lot about dogs blowing up and being eaten, and then they'll stop listening to us.
That we put that behind us.
That was a different life.
Yeah.
I'm a new man. I don't talk about that kind of stuff anymore. Instead,
now we're dog's best friend.
Right. Now it's mutual. Instead, we're going to talk about whatever you're going to talk about. Because I actually don't know what the major fact is.
The major fact is man's best friend. We're going to talk about, so there's a ton of little facts in this, but the meta narrative of this fact is that dogs are uniquely, and you mentioned it, that dogs are uniquely bonded to humans. We have a bond that is that's closer than any other animal bond. So what does that mean? So over the years, dogs' proximity to humans allowed them to develop interesting abilities over other animals. Wolves are better candidates from the beginning, wolves were better candidates for domestication than other animals because of their social hierarchy, their ability to initiate social interaction, even with other species. So a wolf will play with a baby goat until it wants to eat it. Like that kind of thing. They can initiate social interaction with other. Yeah. So dogs have an enzyme that wolves and other predators don't have, which allows them to digest. What do you think?
Starch.
Yeah, it allows them to digest starch. That wolves don't have that, and other predators don't have that. And it's similar to the digestive enzymes that are developed in people that adopt an agriculture as a major means of food supply. So while we were like, we got to develop this enzyme in order for us to eat all this wheat and grain.
I do remember having to make that decision.
Dogs were also like, we'll do that too. We're with you to the end, buddy. If you want to start eating gluten.
That was a great moment of solidarity.
So among the oldest breeds, like the Afghan hound, and there's another hound, I forget what the other one's called, from the Fertile Crescent, and huskies and sled dogs from the north. The ones in agricultural societies in the Fertile Crescent have more of these enzymes. But the huskies that were like companion dogs to tribes that ate mostly meat because they lived in the Great White North or in Siberia, they have fewer of these enzymes. So they do what their people do. Also, dogs can read human body language, and they can understand gestures and pointing. Even chimpanzees need specific training to understand human hand gestures, but dogs will pick it up innately.
It took a while for my dogs to stop looking at my hand when I pointed at something.
Yeah, so They can also be very food driven, and if you make a fist and point, they might think they might be too preoccupied with you eating. But like hand gestures beyond just pointing, other hand gestures that like just body language they can understand, and they can also read pretty amazingly facial expressions on people. Apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently intense emotions cause asymmetrical facial expressions in which more subtle facial expressions are favored on the left side of your face, but more intense facial expressions are favored on the right side of your face. So if you might notice this, like if somebody cuts you off in traffic and you like grimace, the right side of your face is a little bit more scrunched than the left side.
This is the first time hearing of this.
Me too.
This
anyway,
armchair. What is that science where? What's the science where like the head is split into different zones? That pseudoscience from like the 19th century where that was like pretty steeped in racism, to be honest. But
no idea what you're talking about.
I can't remember what it is.
You'll think
like
of it when
if you like if you have you ever seen like it's a bust of someone's head and it's like all like black lines divided across the head. Keep talking.
So, apparently, dogs, when they're looking at you, focus on the right side of your face to read intense emotions. And this is something that humans do to each other as well, subconsciously. When you're talking to someone, you might focus on the right side of their face. I don't know about that. I cannot say that I definitely remember doing that, but they did a study, I guess, where they looked at dogs, and dogs will focus on the right side of the face to read human emotions, but they don't do that when they're looking at each other. So dogs looking at dogs won't look for these facial cues
because they don't make those facial expressions. They they spew pheromones and whine at high frequencies. Also, the answer to the pseudoscience I was talking about is phrenology.
Oh, never heard of it. Interesting.
It's bad, but anyway, that's what it's.
So dogs also engage in deception with humans, which suggests that they are able to read humans well enough to trick them. What is it? Now I've got a thing in my brain I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue.
While you're thinking of that, my dog tries to trick me all the time. This dog is the one that's laying next to me. Because what he does, he doesn't try to trick me. He tries to trick the other dog, but he uses me, which is, I don't know if that's worse. Makes me feel sick inside, you know? But if Yoshi, the big dumber dog, is chewing on a bone, that Morph, the small smarter dog, and by the way, that's the Abbott and Costello, that's the Harry and Marv, that's the Larry and Bob. There's always got to be the big dumb one and the small smart one, right? Why is it always that way? You know, I feel like there's Pinky in the Brain. Why is that the archetype? It's so strange.
But in 101 Dalmatians, a movie about dogs, the tall one is the smart one.
Oh man, you got me there. I do not remember anything from that movie except for the dad was named Pongo. That's it. But I guess it seems to be like a trope that when there's two evil dudes, or not two evil dudes, just they're like a duo of some sort of that work off of each other, usually comedy. The short one or the small one is the intelligent one, and the big one. So it's like the bigger you are, the dumber you are, according to cartoon logic, which is okay. But it works here for my dogs. Anyway, when Yoshi is chewing on a bone that Morph wants, Morph will not try to take the bone from Yoshi because he doesn't stand a chance. Yoshi weighs 4 times as much as he does. Instead, Morph knows that Yoshi loves to be scritched. He loves the good scritches. Loves them up. Loves them so good. And that the only thing that will get him away from the bone is the possibility of getting the good scritches. So Morph will come up and sit in front of me, and he'll whine a little bit. He'll jump up on my like put his paws on my knees, and so then I pet him, and then Yoshi's like, "What? There's scritches to be had?" And then he comes over to get some of the good lovin', and Morph just is like, "My work here's done. Goodbye. I'm leaving you, human. I've wanted the bone." And he goes and gets the bone. And Yoshi's happy. Yoshi's like, "You're gonna pet me, right? This was the unspoken nonverbal agreement we just entered into by sharing eye contact just now."
There's
like, "Yeah,
man,
I am gonna pet you."
You keep teeing up some facts, but keep that in mind. The unspoken agreement about through eye contact. So deception requires theory of mind. Are you familiar with the term?
Is this phrenology again? Because I am not a fan.
In psychology, theory of mind refers to capacity to understand other people by ascribing mental states to them. So it is a theory in your mind of what another person's mind is saying. So in order to lie, you need to theorize how a person will react to manipulation. So for a dog to be able to deceive a human or other dogs, they have to be intelligent enough and in tune with human emotions enough in order to have a theory about how to get your mind to think a certain way. So that's very advanced in terms of just psychology and intelligence.
That is, yeah. So Morph, he's not deceiving me, but he sees the bone and he's like, "You know what that dog likes? That dog likes to be pet." And he will go wherever the petting's good. And so he'll go over to me and I'll pet him. And then he's like, bingo, did it. And then now that's his favorite thing to do. But I know, I see through the lies of the Jedi.
So
I still fall for it though, because you're cute.
Another fact is that humans like dogs. Did you know that?
I did.
No, but we really do. Because a study found that both humans and their dogs have elevated oxytocin levels when they look at or touch each other. So oxytocin is a reward chemical that is tied to socialization. But wouldn't any cute animal raise oxytocin in humans? No, they wouldn't. The study also looked at wolves raised by humans and found that neither the wolves or the handlers had their elevated oxytocin levels from eye contact or from petting.
Yeah, but wolves aren't like super cute. Would you get high oxytocin levels from like a guinea pig?
Wolves are pretty cute. And if you raise them, so the point is like they still have like a, handler animal relationship, but for some reason they don't like our brain chemicals don't reward us for wolf contact or like fox contact, but with a dog they will. So that suggests that not only are dogs adapted to live with humans, humans are adapted to live with dogs, which is pretty interesting.
Well,
it is most natural and most good to have a dog.
I feel like the sentence, "our brain doesn't reward us for wolf contact," basically sums it all up.
That's true. So We know that dogs can learn words, which is why we often spell out words like TREAT or WALK. If
A W. We call it a W here. A George W.
Yeah, so if you don't want your dog to get too excited, you're gonna think about a George W later. I mean, that eventually backfires with dogs and with children because they understand that George W means fun.
Don't we all, though? Don't we all?
Not that guy that threw the shoe.
No.
But how many words can they understand, and how can they put them together? How well can they put them together? So, have you heard of Bunny the dog? Bunny the talking dog?
No.
So recently, Bunny the talking dog has stirred up debate on this topic. So she looks to be some sort of like poodle breed, maybe a mix, maybe a labradoodle, but she's black and white. But she's got that labradoodle face and the curly hair. And she said to know and use more than 90 words by pressing buttons with words on them, including concept words like what and why. So for perspective, a 2-year-old has about 50 words in their vocabulary. So this is like more advanced than a 2-year-old.
I have a 2-year-old.
Yeah. So Bunny supposedly has more of a vocabulary than your 2-year-old. But some suggest that Bunny doesn't actually have a larger vocabulary than a 2-year-old. Rather than assigning words to their meaning, she might be assigning buttons and sounds to the way her human owners react to them. So she presses the button for walk. She doesn't understand that is a language that means walk. And maybe she does, because dogs can do understand that walk means walk. But does she understand what Bunny and why and who? No, I don't. I doubt she does. But she might understand that pressing buttons in a certain order gets a reaction out of her owners, and she's experimenting with just getting their reaction and getting attention from them. But is it
one of those broken clock is right twice a day? There's a lot of gobbledygook that comes out of this dog's just filthy mouth, but then occasionally she says something coherent, and then it's oh, this is a talking dog.
That's another criticism, is that what this person puts online might be them. In fact, she has said she's admitted yes, I put the ones that are compelling to me on the internet. I don't just have her walking around pressing random buttons. So it could be that she's just pressing random buttons, but she also, the owner claims that when she does seem to get it, she seems to be thinking, and they seem to be in certain situations where she would be using these words. So for instance, she by the buttons, there's a mirror, and as we know, despite their intelligence, dogs are not self-aware enough to understand that reflection of themselves is themselves.
Yeah, but the manta ray is.
Apparently, yeah. But yeah, that's some dubious food to me as well.
We talked about it. Go listen to our manta ray episode.
Yeah, and it's compelling because the
elephants
why
can
they think
too.
So is compelling. But we also talked in that episode about how they might have reasons in nature in order to be able to understand reflections. But that doesn't, and maybe the reflection test isn't even the best test for self-awareness. But anyway, Bunny has there's videos of her looking at the mirror and saying, "Who is that?" Who is to the mirror. And I think the owner is trying to get her to understand that it's a reflection of herself, but she always asks who is that? And there's videos of her being why is Bunny? And people are oh, she's having an existential crisis. And no, I think she just doesn't understand the buttons all the time. Or she doesn't understand all the buttons.
Why? Maybe she's like, why did you name me after a different animal? I'm not a bunny. Why did you name me after some other animal? This is inconsiderate at best.
So, yeah, there's a ton of stuff to talk about with dogs, but that's just a couple of things.
Yeah, goodness, we could go on, and we already have.
Mm-hmm.
But dogs are great. I used to work at a booth at the Minnesota State Fair, and directly behind us was a dog show, and it was fantastic. It was on 4 times a day, every day for 2 weeks, and I never got tired of it. One dog's name was Spinelli, like from Recess. Yeah. And that little terrier could dance and climb like straight up a log like a cat does, like run up it really fast and get to the top and catch a frisbee. And yeah, this is spectacular stuff.
I saw a video earlier today of a dog, of like people on a boat rescuing a dog out in the middle of the ocean. Like they were just like fishing or something, or on a boat just for fun. Yeah, out in the middle of the ocean, and then there was just a dog swimming to them.
Oh my goodness.
And they fished it out, and it was a Jack
Yeah,
Russell
you
Terrier,
do. And
it just like shook it off, was standing and walking around, like. And people in the comments were like, "Oh, that's a Jack Russell Terrier. That's like a 2% of its energy power, swimming out into the ocean."
This is actually what it does every day.
Yeah, that's, people were like, "Oh, it was out in the middle of the ocean. It was just trying to burn off some extra energy."
It's just like, yeah, if you live in Spain and you have a Jack Russell Terrier, you just send it across the Strait of Gibraltar every day just to kind of make sure it goes to sleep at night. Because if you don't, it's gonna literally jump through the roof. I used to have a Jack Russell Terrier, and she was brimming with energy until she bored a hole through the wall to get to a different room. And so we gave her to a homeschool family because they had more time to love her. But yeah, do you got anything else?
That's all I got.
I mean, I know there's a lot more, but that is, for the purposes of the show, that is the dog. Its best friend. Thank you, Calvin, for that suggestion. If you have suggestions, you can send them to ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. So for you out there in Podcastia, sit, shake, lie down, and deceive others to get the good scritches, like dogs here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
That was a fun one. That was a fun ending.
Yeah.
Except for the
Deceiving
bad advice
others.
at the end.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.